Good morning. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I want to thank OIS for the invitation to speak. It's always a pleasure to be out in San Diego. Today we're going to talk about our phase 3 clinical trial. Before I get started, I want to comment just to make sure that you know that I will be making some forward-looking statements, and you should look at our website and read through this if you have any interest in some of these statements. 128 million U.S. presbyopes currently are waiting for a drop that works. Once a day is definitely high on their list of priorities. Rapid onset with full day duration and comfortable. These patients really look for something that offers some very specific qualities, and I'm going to review them. Aceclidine is our active ingredient in LNZ100, which went through the phase 3 clinical trial. It's a pupil-selective miotic, and it spares the ciliary muscle. That means it's predominantly causing iris constriction. It achieves a sub 2 millimeter pupil in the vast majority of patients with no discernible myopic shift, and it's once a day duration. Rapid onset within 15 minutes and 10 hours, meaning you can work all day, and long-term data, which we have generated, allows for some very significant safety information to be shared. I am going to talk about the phase 3 trial, and it's important to note it's 45 to 75-year-old patients that we looked at. Refractive range was -4 to +1 with up to 2 diopters of astigmatism, and it included both post-LASIK, post-PRK, and pseudophakics in this group of patients. Notice the age range. The mean was 55, but we treated patients all the way up to 75. Their baseline near distance-corrected acuity had to be 20/50 or worse. The FDA requirement is a 3-line gain in distance-corrected near acuity with no loss of 5 letters or more in distance. And we did that in 71% of the patients at the half hour, 71% at 3 hours, which was our primary endpoint, and then 40% continued to have that effect out till 10 hours. And honestly, if I could have run the trial to 12 or 15 hours, we would still have data, but I know Milton Hom's in the audience, and he knows that I couldn't convince anybody to stick around for more than 10 hours watching all this. 2-line gain, a clinically relevant gain, still is again with no loss of distance vision of 5 letters or more, occurred in 91% at half an hour, 91% at 3 hours, and 69% still had a 2-line measurable gain at the 10-hour mark. Interestingly, 3 lines was not the only thing. We measured all lines gained, and 52% of our participants in this trial experienced a 5-line gain at some point during the trial. So that's great data. There's been a lot of discussion, and as you know, there are approved products out there, but we were very focused on creating a drug that looked at the specific physics of a pinhole pupil, and that meant a sub 2 millimeter pupil. What this graph shows is when you look at our over 14,500 measurements of pupil size across all the subjects, all the times that they were watched, that there is a very clear correlation which validates the Raleigh limit that you get your increased depth of focus sub 2 in a much more significant proportion of patients when you have this pupil at this size. You can't do this if you cause a myopic shift in doing so, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The 99.6% is 233 out of 234 total participants across all the clinical trials were able to get a sub 2 millimeter pupil. So it does work for the patients who are using it. Sub 2 millimeters. Distance vision. If it's a true pinhole, then your distance vision acuity should not be affected as long as you don't touch the ciliary muscle and cause a myopic shift. And in fact, that's what this data validated, is we had statistically significant improvements in distance acuity with this of 2 and 3 letters And the reason I'm pointing this out is this population that we used in the study had to have a 20/25 or better distance acuity to start. So there was not a lot of room to gain in those subjects, but they did gain vision. There wasn't an overall loss for the most part. So what we're showing here is that a true pinhole effect, a sub-2 millimeter pupil, if it doesn't cause a myopic shift, will in fact get rid of some of the higher order aberrations and make the acuity better, whether you're pseudophakic, if you have had laser vision correction, or you're phakic. What about the tolerability? What we're listed here are what we call ocular and non-ocular adverse events. The top 3, installation site irritation, experienced by about 20%. 100% was described as mild by the subjects. They felt it as it went in, and it bothered them very briefly. Visual impairment, almost 100% of that was visual dimness. And that is because when you put a drop in that constricts your pupil from 4.5 millimeters or so to start, and you're now sub-2, and it's significantly so, you will experience visual dimness. We instilled this bilaterally, and so these subjects, in fact, described all of this as mild. And you can see that we had about 9% with hyperemia. Again, the vehicle is listed on the right. And then the most significant occurring was the headaches. Again, 89% were mild, and of interest, it is tachyphylactic across time. As they experience those headaches, they describe them as getting better over the course. When we reported on the patient-reported outcomes, 90% noticed an improvement, 75% said they would continue after use, and of those 75, 81% said that they would use it 4 to 7 times a week. We have finished our trial. The data is at FDA. PDUFA date is August 8th of 2025. We're looking forward to this approval, and we are well funded so we can commercialize. Thank you.